Hello, I'm Barbara Marx Hubbard, and I welcome you to The Gathering. Every now and then, I discover a group that has, in my opinion, the exact pattern required for social transformation. It's very rare to find this. And as I read over the material and know some of the people working with you, I want to tell you, I think you've got it. I think you've really got the pattern. And I want to tell you what I mean here. We all know that we are part of an evolutionary process. We've all heard about the cosmogenesis, the awesome mystery story from no thing at all through crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis. And we see ourselves in one of those crises. The only difference from all that came before is that we're the first species that is aware that we are creating a crisis which could lead to our own extinction. And it's always been my thought that that awareness of crisis leading to destruction of our civilization and Earth life evidently is the signal needed for the maturation and transformation of humanity. We've heard it from our great spiritual teachers, from our ethical teachers. We know we are here to love one another, to care for one another, for the earth, for each other, and inspired by spirit, but it hasn't been quite enough. So let's say the crisis is exactly enough, and we are in exactly the window of the planetary life cycle where within a very short period it could go down fast to devolution. So it's always been my thought that in the very same period of time it could jump to transformation, to conscious evolution. But since none of us have ever crossed the gap from here where it could go down to there where it could emerge, and because there are no experts on the other side of this gap to tell us how we should do it, we have to intuit it and discover it mainly from our own understanding and from evolutionary theory and intuition. Now, one of the places I first saw this was in Jonas Salk's work with his S-curve. And he was tracing population growing very slowly and then suddenly escalating and up to the point where he said it's a J-curve, it goes down into collapse. So the S-curve is like this, and then over here is epic B. This is epic A, here's epic B. How do you get from epic A, where the population pollution and overcrowding is going down to destruction, to this sustainable, regenerative future that we can all see? And I was once at the Salk Institute, and they had a conference of very distinguished biologists, anthropologists, scientists, and we were looking at this S-curve, and someone said, we don't know how to cross the gap. And I said, oh, yes, we do. And I raised my hand. And they said, well, who are you to think you know? I said, I know that in order to cross the gap, we need a wheel. That it is impossible to go fast enough from this potential breakdown to this ever-evolving future without very rapidly connecting what's already working as a whole system shift. And I see that you're using the wheel of co-creation. And I thank you for this, because this is a model and diagram for our turn on the spiral to identify key fields and function in which there are innovations in every field. And when I read that your whole conference is going to be bringing people who know what's emerging in each of these fields together to see what's working and to connect it and to not only just celebrate it, but discover the synergistic convergence among that which is emerging. And nature's great secret is that it is a hierarchy of synergistic convergence. Nature selects for that which cooperates best. And since we have social systems that are pyramid, top down, all our structures are inadequate for synergistic convergence. Not only inadequate, they're designed not to do it. So no matter who you are, when you get to the top of one of those pyramids, it's a principle of rising impotence. You get less and less likely to be able to do this. So who's going to do it? Obviously, people like ourselves at the gathering, wherever we can gather. But usually we don't have a symbol of synergistic convergence or a process to help us arrive at that. So let's say that you are pioneering in exactly the template in that S-curve from here to there. And as Irvin Laszlo points out so well for all of us, that if you're in a chaos window like we are, far from equilibrium, the system is reactive first. It tries to go back to right itself. And we can see it in our reactive politics, in fundamentalist religions of all kinds, but it won't work. It gets more unstable. So just exactly at that time, the system is groping for higher level structure. Not just good projects, not just wonderful people or great ideas, for systemic structure. And if that structure exists, even in the smallest way, it's a small fluctuation in a sea of social chaos. And I actually believe that what you're doing there, in this very significant dates in human history, toward September 11th of that terrible crisis and awakening of our destructive power on that particular scale, that by picking that day to celebrate, the gathering with a wheel to cross the gap from here to there by connecting what's working, I believe the result is amazing. And I'd like to say two things about the wheel that I've been discovering. Notice the hub of the wheel. It's not only the sectors that go out. What is the hub of the wheel? And we learned this in the 25 syncons for synergistic convergence. The hub of the wheel is coordination. It's not trying to control. It's not government. It's connecting that which is emerging, matching common goals with needs and resources throughout the whole system. And you begin to get synergistic convergence. The hub also is a place of social revelation and resonance. If you reside, no matter what sector of the wheel you're going into, in the hub of the wheel, with each other, this is my experience, you pick up the pattern of the core of that spiral. You pick up the impulse of evolution, not just personally through your own heart, but collectively. It's a social revelation of a pattern of, you might say, a planetary DNA, a planetary systemic structure of the emerging culture. And I call it a co-creative society. We would be moving to a society that liberates each person's creativity to give its best by connecting with others within the whole. The totalitarian systems tried it, but they forced it. The democratic system has now gotten so oppositional and individualistic that it's paralyzed. But when we build these wheels, we can make the jump. And I really believe if we can model synergistic convergence here at the gathering and replicate wheels, replicate town meetings in the round everywhere, where people just simply invite one another in all these different groups and functions to say, what do I want to create? What do I need to create it? What resources do I want to give? And what is in my deepest heart's desire for resonance, love, oneness, creativity, collective spirit awakening? And I'll just finish with my most favorite thought, which I got from Teilhard de Chardin. The noosphere, the thinking layer of Earth, made up of our consciousness, our technologies, our internet, and now the amazing rapid connectivity of the nervous system of humanity. I have heard that there are now 4.7 billion cell phones on planet Earth. We're connecting up. It doesn't even matter why. It's the nervous system of a newborn planetary culture. And Teilhard said, at some point, this noosphere begins to connect empathetically and in consciousness, just like we're doing here, heart with heart, center with center. And that degree of connectivity, at some point, it begins to go into a collective consciousness jump. And in Teilhard's language, the noosphere gets its collective eyes. It's a planetary awakening of love, a planetary resonance of connectivity. And the same force that brings cells to form bodies and vast ecologies as whole systems, that force of coordination couldn't stop here with us. So while we can set up the field in which this can happen, I would end with the thought that the force of creation itself, the process of evolution that brought us from no thing at all to right here, that process is among us, is us, particularly in the hub of the wheels of co-creation. So I bless you all. I thank you. I really want to know what happens, and I so much wish I could be with you. Thank you.